take it.
Yo, what up you guys, MxgicIQ here, and today I'm bringing you guys the best pro settings on the best cars in the grand race for the Crew Motorfest. Now I'm going to make this into a two-part video. Today we're going to be going over Street Tier 1, Street Tier 2, Racing, and Hypercar, as well as Alpha GP, because it's a rather short category and there's not much pro settings with that. Everything else will be in part 2 of this video, so all of the off-road vehicles and everything like that will be up tomorrow at the same time around 7 a.m. or so. I will have all of the pro settings for those vehicles for you guys, so make sure you guys stay tuned for part 1, hit the subscribe button and that notification bell so you guys never miss a video. Now without further ado, let's get into the best cars for the grand race, starting with all of the tarmac based vehicles today. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Let's get straight into the video. But before the video starts, I just want to give a big shout out to my tuners, man. Basically, Rhino the Raccoon and Kois tuned every single car on this list. If not with me, they helped me out with most of it. If not, tuned some of them by themselves completely. So big shout out to them. Very fast guys. Kois is getting used to the Crew Motorfest and just improving his pace every day. The guy's getting to the point where he's DNFing whole lobbies. If you guys want to see that video, make sure you guys click the link to his channel down below in the description. It's an insane video. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. Alrighty, you guys. Now starting out with Street Tier 1, at the number 1 spot, we have the Ford Focus RS. I am doing a top 3 for each class. They're really in no specific order, but this car does stand out compared to the rest because for some reason this thing just has ridiculous acceleration. Now, if you do want to equip a wide body, you can. People say that it does help. I have it on most of my cars, but this one, I don't know. I'm comfortable with it how it is, so I just didn't throw one on there. Now let's get into the pro settings real quick. I do have a video on this car, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to skim through it and leave that link down below in the description. You're welcome to pause at any point and take screenshots. Some of the cars I haven't made videos on yet, I will be breaking down for you guys just so we can go over it really quick. I'll probably do it at the same pace, but the difference is I'll be telling you the numbers so you don't even have to look at the screen. I'll go a little bit slower just so you guys are able to pick up on that, okay? But at the number 1 spot, definitely the Ford Focus RS for Street Tier 1 at the moment. Now, this might come to a surprise for most of you guys, but I got completely annihilated by somebody using this car while driving the Ford Focus, and I must say this thing is a beast. The only reason I don't have it at number 1 is because I don't feel like I've tested it enough for it to prove itself yet, and I think I might have just had an off race. But this thing, honestly, is ridiculous. For a truck, like, this thing's insane, and we don't have a video on this thing yet. So let's dive straight into the pro settings. And also, before we go any further, just so you guys know, for the upgrades, if you guys are trying to use these in the open world free roam or whatever, you always want to use Nitro Chemist with both Extra Pump and Pure, okay? Rarely would you ever use Frentic or Iron Grip. Frentic will be on dragsters. Iron Grip's going to be on the race cars, on the racing tread wear races, which are only in the Summit and in free roam. So without further ado, into the pro settings for my personal tuned F-150 SVT Raptor. Shout out to Rhino for the Ford Focus tune, but on this SVT Raptor, I got 28% power distribution towards the rear. I also have +1 on the spring front, +5 on the spring rear, +3 on the damper compression front, +5 on the damper compression rear, -2 on damper rebound front, +6 on damper rebound rear. We also have the ARB front and rear at 10 and 10, and the camber front and rear at -25 and -25. Honestly, kind of going to dip this camber down in the front a little bit, probably to about -17, okay? If that feels weird, go back to -25. This thing needs all the steering and camber and different stiffness it can get. Honestly, this thing is pretty loose and still drifts a little bit, but dude, this thing just has so much power. I've gone almost 200 miles per hour in the straights with this thing. It's an absolute beast. Now into the number 3 spot. This is, like I said, again, none of these are really in order. It's kind of up to personal preference, and at a certain point this game is a lot more about driver mod than the car you're driving, but having the fastest car will help if you're one of the slower drivers, and this is again one of those top 3 fastest cars, the RX-7 Turbo 10th anniversary edition. A lot of people have been running this car. If you can get your hands on the other special edition that's in the garage from the Crew 2, or you already have it, then good on you. It might be a little bit better. Every special edition of whatever car usually has a little bit of an advantage, whether it's a little bit wider so it's able to take corners a little better. There's just some weird things going on there. I don't really know how to explain it myself, but other people have said that certain editions of cars are faster. Getting into the pro settings on this thing, it is tuned by Kois, so Make sure you guys go ahead and check him out, link down below in the description as well. We have 55% brake balance on this RX-7 Turbo 10th anniversary. Getting down into the suspension, we have +8 on the spring front, +9 on the spring rear, -8 on the damper compression front, +4 on the damper compression rear, and -14 on the damper rebound front, +10 on the damper rebound rear, and -9 on the ARB front, and +3 on the ARB rear. Our camber front is 0.25 negative, and our camber rear is -0.15. Those are our pro settings on the RX-7 Turbo 10th anniversary. Now let's get into Street Tier 2. Alrighty, you guys, now getting into Street Tier 2, at the number 1 spot, I do have the Huracan. Now, this car, I haven't even personally used that much yet. I think I've driven it only 17 miles or something like that. But this thing is at the front of every race. This thing moves ridiculously quick, and you don't really have to do much to this car in terms of the pro settings. The pro settings on this, you guys, just adjust the camber a little bit, honestly, and that's all you need to do. I'd probably go negative like 0.5, negative maybe 0.5 in the back too. I will link Militia Gaming Community's video down below in the description, as he did do a build on this car, so make sure you guys go check that video out, link down below in the description as well. Big shout out to MGC, he's the homie, man. He tuned this car, so I'll leave that link down below in the description, because I personally don't have much experience with it yet, but this car is probably the best car in Street Tier 2 right now. The top speed is just absolutely ridiculous. But getting into some cars I have some experience with, at the number 2 spot, arguably, probably swap with the ZR1. It's just up to you as a driver. I think this car is easier and more consistent. The ZR1's a little bit more wild, but it can be better in the corners. But as far as a straight line speed, this thing's just got it. It's second to the Huracan, I think, in terms of that category, and that's the F12 Berlinetta. I tuned this thing personally, so let's get into the tune on this thing. This thing, I really didn't adjust that much. I left it pretty much completely stock. Everything is not adjusted until you get to the anti-roll bars and the alignment. Some cars, you guys, you don't need pro settings for. You don't need to go absolutely crazy. If the car feels good out of the box, make some minor adjustments. If you think the car's a little loose, stiffen it up just a little bit. Sometimes you can even drive cars stock. Most of the Alpha GP cars, I don't even have that much done to the pro settings. Maybe a little bit of camber, and you guys will see that later. But this F12 Berlinetta, all I'm running is +2 on the front ARB, +4 on the rear ARB, running about -0.08 camber in the front, and about -0.04 camber in the rear. I adjust these every now and then, but honestly, this is where I've stuck for the last couple days or so. This car is pretty much good out of the box. You can make some minor adjustments if you want to, or drive the car completely stock. I really love it. It's super consistent. Now, getting into the ZR1, man. Kois DNF'd an entire lobby using this car and a couple other cars you guys are going to see on this list, so make sure you guys go check out that video. Absolutely insane. But this is Kois's tune on the Corvette ZR1. This thing is a little rowdy, as mentioned, but Kois has this thing dialed just for him, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well. I think the car drives great. I just prefer the F12 over it. This thing, though, in the corners, like I said, man, an absolute beast. +4 on the spring rate to the front, +6 on the spring rear. We got the damper compression front at -5. We got the damper compression rear at -3. We got the damper rebound front at +1 and the damper rebound rear at +1 as well. We also have the ARB front at -1. We also have the ARB rear at +1. We have the camber in the front at -0.10, okay? And the rear is just 0, flat out. Didn't touch the camber in the rear. He said this thing feels amazing pretty much out of the box for him. Same story kind of as the, Berlinetta for me. But he just made some minor adjustments to it, and he's got it dialed into the point where, like I said, this guy's gapping entire lobbies and making them so they can't even finish. The whole lobby got DNF'd. It's an insane video. Again, link down below in the description. Alrighty guys, now getting into the racing category. I have 2 tunes by Kois and a third car that I haven't really tested much with yet. I will be doing a video on it at a later date to see if it competes with the 458 Italia GT2. Now the reason this video even came about is because I wanted to put an Italia GT2 video out for you guys today, but I decided, well, I'm just going to give them all the Grand Race cars because I have so many videos I want to do on all the builds in the Grand Race, and it doesn't really make much sense for me to put them in multiple different videos. I'd rather just have one condensed video where you guys can click the timestamps in the description and get to the car you're looking for. And if I have a video on it, then you can click straight to that. As time efficient as possible. One video, all the builds, as well as a part 2 with the rest of the builds that are not able to be in this video because we don't want you sitting here for an hour. It's already going to be long as it is. So let's get straight into it, man. At the number 1 spot, in my opinion, by far, I felt no confidence like I feel in this car and any other car. the Ferrari 458 Italia GT2. Now, where I first saw this car, I want to give a shout out to is Simg. I saw him make a YouTube short with this car. That guy is an amazing racer in this game. You guys got to check him out. I'll leave his link down below in the description as well. Great driver, amazing grand race content from that guy. Make sure you guys tune into his live streams. Try and get better by racing with him. That guy's super fast. You'll learn things you didn't already know, whether it's his lines, his tunes. Maybe he'll share them with you guys. That guy's amazing. But let's get straight into this car. Tuned by Kois and approved by me. I love this thing. Brake balance is at 55%. The aero on this car is not adjusted. The suspension, though, +8 for the front spring rate, +10 for the rear spring rate. The damper compression front is at -4. Damper compression rear is at +6. Damper rebound front is at -3. Damper rebound rear is at +5. The anti-roll bars are at -3 in the front, +3 in the rear. And for the alignment, we have -0.20 in the front for camber and -0.10 in the rear for camber. This thing's a beast, man. By far, in my opinion, the better car of racing class. A lot of people say the Bugatti Bolide. I'll put that at the number 2 spot. I don't have the car yet. Didn't want to spend $2 million on a car that couldn't really turn, but I heard the thing is amazing in the straightaways. So, alrighty, you guys. Now at the 3rd place spot for the racing category, we have the FXXK. This was the number 1 spot when the game first came out, but after some rigorous testing, obviously, the GT2 just completely surpassed this thing, as well as the Bolide. Is very good in the straightaways. I think this thing does corner better than the Bolide, and I also have an honorable mention car that I actually like to use better than both of those cars, and it's the GT3 Cup car, the 911 car. So we're going to look at that after this, but first let's get into the pro settings on this thing. Now, I tuned this thing a while back, and I tested these pro settings out recently, and they still are very, very good. I made some adjustments, and just want to share them with you guys. The brake balance is 55%. The spring in the front is +4. Spring in the rear is +6. -1 damper compression front, +1 damper compression rear. -6 damper rebound front, +8 damper rebound rear. Anti-roll bars, -2 in the front, +5 in the back. Camber in the front is -0.15. Camber in the rear is -0.10. I personally just like the way the car drove stock, but just wanted a little bit more camber and to stiffen the car up a little bit, so I did what I did, and it works. I just personally prefer the GT2 like by far over any other car, except for the GT3 Cup car. Now, the only thing with the 911 GT3 Cup car is the problem is it just has no straight line speed, but I wanted to share it with you guys real quick because I think it's the best handling car in the class. By far, this thing turns on a dime. It's amazing. I really love this car. A lot of people in my stream really appreciated the suggestion as well, so I figured we'd go ahead and check it out. My pro settings on this car are as follows: +2 spring front, +4 spring rear, +2 on both the damper compression front and rear, +5 on the damper rebound front, and +10 on the damper rebound rear. We have +10 for both anti-roll bars and -25 for the alignment on both the camber front and rear. Eventually, I believe I'm going to be able to make this thing fast in the straightaway somehow. I don't know if it's by changing some pro settings around, changing up something, but or maybe an update comes out and buffs this thing, but I really like the way this car drives, and it's super consistent. But that GT2 458 is just amazing. So if you guys are looking for a go-to in racing, definitely that 458 GT2. Let's get into Hypercar. So I'm gonna start off Hypercar by saying this, man. At the end of the day, what the best is versus what the easiest is 2 different conversations. In my opinion, I really love the Koenigsegg Agera R. Kois was fighting for it to be number 1 because I think the Revuelto is number 1, but he said once he got in this thing, he was paces faster than the Revuelto. But just how many of you guys complain about how the car handles, you guys got to understand this thing is not easy to drive. But if you guys can master this car, it's extremely rewarding, and all you have to do is make sure you're a couple gears higher than you think in the corners. I mean, if it's a 3rd gear corner in a Jesco or something like that, put it in 5th gear. It's going to hook. This thing is amazing, bro. You guys just gotta learn how to drive the car before you judge it. Some people were judging the car before they even bought it. So at the end of the day, man, if you guys don't think you can drive this car, it's fine. I'm just letting you know this thing is a beast. Rhino suggested it to me for a reason, and Kois loves it for a reason. This car is insane if you can control it. Definitely at the number 1 or 2 spot. If you guys want the pro settings for this car, I'm not going to waste your time. There's a link down below in the description to the video. We're going to skim through it real quick, but I do a full breakdown in that video as well if you guys want to check that out. This car is tuned by Rhino the Raccoon. I appreciate you, brother, for this tune. It's absolutely amazing. It was adjusted for me. His is a little bit even more aggressive, as well as Kois has an even more aggressive setup on it. I'm telling you, I have a tame version of this car. If this is harder for you to drive, trust me, there's more aggressive tunes out there that are even more rewarding. It's pretty crazy. This car is pretty wild. Now, at the number 2 spot, obviously the Revuelto. I think it could be number 1. I'm probably butchering the name. I'm probably butchering the Centodici's name or whatever it is. Okay, the Bugatti that I'm not going to mention in the top 3 because I just like to make you guys frustrated. You guys want me to think that car is good so bad. I just can't because I never struggle against it. Like, I think Hypercar is a very, very balanced class where I'm looking for the most consistent car that can turn and accelerate. I think I've never had a problem getting gapped in this class. When it comes to Street Tier 2, there's obvious cars that are just way faster top speed than other cars that just completely gap me. Same thing with racing. That 458 GT2 completely gaps any other, at least in my opinion, the Bolide and the racing GT2. That thing, I don't know what it is, but like you can't keep up with it if it gets a little leave on you. And Hypercar, I think it's really closely balanced. I think they did a great job with Hypercar. I don't think there's any ridiculous standouts in my opinion. I think this class is very, very well done. But getting into the Revuelto, I have a video full breakdown on this as well. I'm going to skim through these pro settings, but this thing is great. It's all-wheel drive, so it hooks. It's very easy to corner with. It's not as aggressive in the corners as the Koenigsegg Agera R, which is going to be quicker around those gutters, but this thing, it does have insane acceleration off the line, and you're going to get out ahead of the pack and hopefully away from that first corner chaos, which is completely detrimental to anybody. So if you can go from first to like last place in one corner, it's pretty funny, but it's a little bit obnoxious. Video coming out on that very soon. At the number 3 spot, just to piss off you Bugatti lovers, okay, the Porsche 911 GT1 Straubenfest. Okay, the reason I love this car is because on that right there with this little thingy right here, which I'm pointing at a shifter, this thing, you fly. This acceleration's insane when you flat foot shift. Okay, this thing corners on a dime. This thing feels like I'm driving a GT3 racing car. Obviously, because it's literally the road version of a GT1 car, this thing turns ridiculously well. On controller, might be a little sluggish with the gearing, but this thing is insane. Luckily on wheel, I can go from 5th to 2nd gear to engine brake the car like it was a racing car. But on controller, if you try and downshift, it's gonna go because it has like a fake like clutch input thing. But this thing still, even on controller, is insanely good for handling, insanely good for acceleration. I love this car. For my pro settings on this thing, I haven't adjusted anything on this car except for the camber and the anti-roll bars, and it is an absolute beast. This car feels really good out of the box. Super stiff already, but we stiffened up the roll bars anyway. Camber is negative 0.23 in the front and negative 0.21 in the rear. Amazing car, you guys. Amazing list. I love this list. Now, honorable mentions for Hypercar. I'm going to say it because you guys obviously want me to. Let's go over to the shop real quick and take a look. But in my opinion, it would probably be the Jesco and obviously the Centodici. I believe that's how you say it. Probably butchering it, but that thing is widely loved in this game. People love this car. I don't have any pro settings for it. If you guys want to check out the pro settings for this car, I will link down below Militia Gaming Community's video on this car. He thinks this is one of the best cars in the class, and I respect his opinion. I'm not saying this car might not be one of the best in the class, hence why I'm mentioning it right now. I'm just saying that I don't care for it. But if you guys want to pick this thing up, I heard it's a beast. Check out his video. He has a great build on it. Alrighty guys, I know this video is already super long, so the rest of the classes I'm going to be covering in part 2 being Drift, Rally, Rally Raid, Plane, Motocross. Those will all be in the next video. I promise you, you guys won't want to miss that, so make sure you guys subscribe, turn post notifications on. That will be coming out tomorrow. But to finish up with the tarmac vehicles, excluding the Drift class, we have Alpha GP here. Now, for the number 1 spot, we got the RB18. Most of these Alpha GP cars don't need pro settings, but I believe I adjusted the camber on this car just to add a little bit and then moved it back because it doesn't even need it. Just don't even tune the RB18. Don't even tune any of these cars. I can take corners, no lift in this thing, no problem. This thing's amazing, okay? Love this car. Number 1, feels great out the box. Literally need to do nothing to it. A car I'm very surprised by at the number 2 spot. I don't know if you can acquire this thing anymore. Is the Concept Spear Racing. Now, I do believe I adjusted the camber on this thing just a tiny bit. -12 in the rear, -15 in the front. But this thing has great acceleration, and it honestly keeps up with the RB18. The cornering is a little bit inferior to the RB18, but it makes up for that in the acceleration at the corner exit speed, as well as it hawks it down in the straights. This thing is very impressive, and I've had a lot of fun with it as well. Make sure you guys check this out if you were lucky enough to cop this in one of the motor passes, I believe. Make sure you guys go ahead and go over to the Crew 2 and check to see if it's available for purchase as well. It might be, don't know for sure. But at the number 3 spot, I have the RB14 Disruption Edition or the regular edition, kind of tied with the Mark X as well. A couple cars I don't have tunes on, but me personally, I'm sticking with those two I already mentioned. The Concept Speed Racing and the RB18 are pretty outstanding in the Alpha GP class, and these cars are also very well balanced and matched as well. I've used multiple different cars. I've even used this old school looking like ESC design / American Patrol car. This thing's pretty good too. A lot of the Alpha GP cars with very minor adjustments are very competitive with one another, so you can just have a lot of fun in this class and just enjoy going full lock, full speed, no lift into corners, and just absolutely ripping around them. I will say, though, steering wheel is a little overpowered in this class because I can no lift in certain areas where some controller players can't, and it's a little OP. But besides that, the game is really well balanced in this class and overall, and I've really enjoyed making this video. Part 2 coming soon. Make sure you guys stay tuned. It's been MxgicIQ, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And I'm sorry for the long video, but had to get it done. I'm out. I'll see you in the next one.